Thanks to the success of Mega Man Zero, Inticreates were brought on by Capcom to continue developing the new series. A little over a year later, the sequel, Mega Man Zero 2, was released worldwide, interestingly on the same day Mega Man X7 was in North America, the sequel to a series the first Mega Man Zero was supposed to replace. Anyway, upon looking over the whole series, if Zero 1 was laying the foundation, Zero 2 built a castle on its place. Mega Man Zero 2 picks up, appropriately, a year after the events of the first, with Zero still fighting off the huge army that was sent to exterminate him at the end of the first game. Zero wins, of course, but not before finally shutting down under all the stress. Yet he is saved by Harpuia, of all people, who has become Neo Arcadia's new leader after the death of Copy X. Zero was brought to the new Resistance base, where there is a new leader as well, a former Neo Arcadian Reploid named El Paizo, who helped Ciel and the others escape from their previous location. El Paizo thinks with the absence of X that the time has come to challenge Neo Arcadia directly, but Zero and Ciel both disagree and think they are better holding off until she can finish her new energy system, thus removing any reason for Neo Arcadia to hunt down the Reploids in the first place. El Paizo goes out anyway and obviously fails, spurring him to search for one of Neo Arcadia's most closely guarded secrets that he thinks will give him the power to fully destroy Neo Arcadia. The plot and narrative, in my opinion, is much better than Zero 2, especially in the character development. Harpuia in particular spent Mega Man Zero 1 as mostly a narrow-minded zealot obsessed with Arcadian order, but he's given a big upgrade of depth in this game, which easily makes him among my favorite Mega Man characters. Zero himself also starts to have some emotion shine through again, with a couple intentional or not snarky observations and real anger towards an enemy. And while it was visible in the first game, it's clear by now that Ciel is seeing Zero as something more than just a friend or comrade in arms. As for the gameplay, well, can I cry hallelujah? Because this is a massive improvement over Zero 1's schizophrenia. All the basic controls and movements have stayed the same, but now the level design accommodates Zero's movement options. For the most part. There is almost nothing in the way of cheap difficulty or fake challenge anymore. Levels are cleverly designed with unique quirks about each one, meaning little to no repetition, and nearly all the bosses require some level of dexterity or skill to beat. Especially Harpuia. Man, he's been lifting or something since his pathetic Zero 1 tenure. And thankfully, Cyber Elves are finally viable. Most only require 250 to 700 to use now, and large E-crystal packs themselves are more commonly found in stages. You'll still have to farm them if you want to fully max Zero out, as you should have to, but this time it isn't a chore by any means. As for new additions, while you keep the Z-Saber, Buster Shot, and Shield Boomerang from Zero 1, the Triple Rod has been replaced with a new weapon, the Chain Rod. Just like with the previous weapon, the Chain Rod can attack in all 8 directions with great range, but it also exists for utility value. By latching the end onto certain boxes or enemies, Zero can pull them, or by firing it into a wall or ceiling, Zero can swing akin to Samus's grapple beam. It is pretty neat, and helpfully the game doesn't run away with it, as only a couple stages really require these special functions of the Chain Rod, but there are a few areas where it can allow a shortcut or enable safer travel over dangerous terrain. Also new is the form system. By completing any mission with a certain quota of actions performed, you will unlock one of 9 forms pertaining to that action, which alters Zero's abilities in various ways. For example, killing 20 enemies in a stage with dash attacks gets you the active form, which doubles your speed, or destroying 50 enemies with just the Buster Shot allows use of the X form, giving a power boost to the Buster, making Zero play a lot more like one of the traditional Mega Man protagonists. The last big new items are the EX skills, which are essentially a return of the post-boss power-up from the old Mega Man games. If you fight certain bosses with an A or S rank, they can use their special EX attack, but beating them will have Zero adapting that technique into his arsenal. Zero's Saber skills, for example, mimic his special attacks from the X games, his Buster skills feel a lot like riffs on Mega Man or X's weapons, and the Lone Rod and Shield skills are more or less extensions of their basic abilities. In summary, I think Zero 2 is a massive improvement over the first, in the same way that Mega Man 2 solidified its own series, Zero 2 did for its own. You may be hearing that the music is pretty awesome as well, in my opinion also a huge improvement over Zero 1. This game and the next two are some of Yamada's finest work ever, and I have a really hard time picking one of the OSTs as my favorite. If I have any major complaint, it's that needing a high rank to get the EX skills kind of locks newer players out of experiencing them. None are really necessary or that super useful outside of aesthetic value, but the inner completionist in all of us will eventually demand that we acquire every skill, which means that elf use is a big no-no, as every one you consume lowers your stage score. I will say that it isn't super hard to get an A rank, as 02 is nowhere near as unforgiving as the first, but it can be an issue. Another is that some of the form unlocks have really strange conditions that you'll probably never get without knowing, and that a couple of cyber elves are hidden in either very obscure areas, require you to destroy a certain number of enemies that may only appear in a single area, or require a ludicrous challenge to be met to acquire. But this was somewhat also an issue with the first game, and at least this time none of the elves are unobtainable if you finish the stage without already getting them. Overall though, these are all minor in my eyes to how well crafted this installment is. I could tell right from the very first stage, you see Zero in a state of disrepair following an entire year of fighting, feel the desperation as you traverse the bleak desert, invigorated by, in my eyes, Zero's theme in the background, and then the ending where you were saved by Harpooya of all people. You could tell that this was both a continuation and something entirely different in gameplay, tone, and story, otherwise known as the near-perfect sequel. And the only reason I don't say that 02 is the perfect sequel is that 03 was even better than it, but we'll go over that next time.